Thank you, Steve. I find that so helpful. Sometimes it feels like one is walking a tightrope between despair and hope. And I take a lot of hope from the idea that God is transforming this world, and we can play our little part in that transformation. So let's give it time for a bit of response now. Over the last couple of years, we've interviewed people who are thinking about this stuff, and we heard from Fran and family a couple of years ago. We heard from Paul, Paul last year. This year, it's the turn of the Watsons, or Tristan. Rachel's bowing her. Tristan speaking on behalf of the Watsons. Yeah. Let's stand here. So Tristan, the series we talk about being convinced. What are your convictions about when it comes to the environment?
I kind of put some notes down because otherwise I'll just forget. So firstly, convinced that God created the earth and saw that it was good, and I'm utterly convinced in his craftsmanship in creating a place for us to live. God made our planet for us to enjoy, convinced of that, and to nurture and to steward. Excuse me, it's that young lady on the short film there said, that we are stewards of God's creation, and I really believe that. Really convinced that we need to look after this place, not just for us, and actually kind of for the future generations, that actually our actions that we do today will have a far greater impact on those generations to come. So whether it's a positive action or a negative action, it kind of impacts on future generations. Yes, so I think that's kind of mainly kind of my convictions really about kind of being responsible for the planet that God's made for us.
Thank you. And so where are those convictions taking you? What is it that you and your family are doing in response to that?
Yeah, this was really tricky. So there's lots of, I think, little things, and sometimes I think some things are more costly than others, and what we can do is what we can do. So some of us have more means than others, but actually all of us can play a role. So little things, walking or cycling wherever possible. So Rachel and I cycled to church this morning and was really thrilled to see a number of bikes on the bike rack today. So if that's not you, there's lots of space there for bikes now. Make good use. We try to reduce our energy consumption as far as we can. So not leaving things on standby, only boiling enough water. So I used to be really guilty of just like filling the kettle half up. And I think, well, because I like a cup of tea, and it could be frequented quite often during the day. I think, well, I'll just be quicker next time I have a cup of tea if it's already a bit warm, but really unhelpful. So only boiling enough water that is needed. We recently got a smart meter, so as soon as we got that, I went around the house turning things on and off to see what was kind of drawing power, so that there's a thing called phantom load, that kind of the energy the house uses just as it's kind of stood still. And in doing that, kind of reduced that amount of energy being used right to a minimum. Other things that we do, so we live in a neighbourhood that sometimes doesn't get looked after very well. So if we're out and about, see things lying around, we'll kind of pick up some litter. We recycle as much as possible, including soft plastics. So I don't know if you know kind of soft plastics now, the co-op actually recycle. So we have a bag, we save it all up, and then give them quite a ton of soft plastic. Soft plastic, so the kind of film over the top of your mushrooms, or those kind of plastics that aren't rigid, but more of a kind of a covering, things like that. There was another one there, soft plastics. Batteries. So did you know that we have a battery collection point in the foyer? So if you've used single-use batteries, store them up and then bring them here, and we have them recycled. Other things we do, so we holiday at home where possible. So I think in the last 15 years, I think I've been on a plane journey once. And that's because whilst we can do carbon offsetting, actually the most damaging thing that any of us can do is jump on a plane. So really think about our travel. And that's where, again, that young lady was talking about the cost of thinking this way. Actually, in order to get to where we need to get, again, it's my conviction that that is going to be costly, and sometimes, with the luxuries in life. We mostly shop for our clothes at charity shops. It's probably very obvious to you that that's the case. But again, just reusing stuff where possible. A slightly bigger thing that we do, and acknowledge that not everyone can do, but we drive an electric car, and that's because I was driving up and down to Sussex very frequently in a dirty old diesel, so we kind of swapped that out for an electric. Guess that's on the way for most people eventually, so we'll all be there one day. There. Those are some of the things that we're doing.
Thanks, that's tremendous. And now, over the last couple of years, I've been promoting the Creation Care Survey, a way of which families can do a survey of their environmental footprint and get ideas about what to do differently. And I know you've had a little bit of a crack at that. Are there other things that you plan to do as a result of engaging with that?
We plan to further that creation care, because I think we got halfway in. Life admin got busy, but it's not an excuse. It's not. We need to do it. Little things again, like looking at our cleaning products. So there's lots of products now kind of on the market that are much, much greener for the environment. Sometimes the more nasty ones work better, and so we can get lazy. I know that we do, and sometimes we just need to put some bleach down that toilet because it's terrible. But looking at reviewing how we use chemicals in our household. Looking at stuff that we can reuse. There's lots of shops now popping up where you can take a big bottle and fill up with shampoo or this and that. There's lots of those kind of popping up now. So looking at how we might do refillables more so that we're not so that we're reducing our single use of materials. Something that we kind of might dream about would be kind of lobbying shops around the use of single-use plastic. That soft plastic that we're talking about, which is really horrible. Again, this will be costly, but perhaps it's about not buying a packet of apples, but going to the greengrocer and buying loose and things like that, because our soft plastic bag fills up so quickly. It's shocking. When you save it, you realise just how much we're using. So maybe choosing not to buy those kinds of things. Consider more carefully how we heat the home. So you turn the heating on when it seems difficult to imagine at the moment, but in the winter. Not heating the whole home, actually maybe heating single rooms that we're using and only putting on things like bedrooms just before going to bed and things like that. So just thinking about how we do stuff like that. But yeah, those are the things that we're thinking about.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing all those wonderful ideas. There's a lot going on in the Watson household there. Yeah, so let's hit. Yeah, so thanks for getting the ball rolling. Thank you very much. So a chance for a few minutes to reflect on what you've heard this morning and think about how you could go greener. Maybe share a few ideas about what you're doing. If your neighbours, if you're in a table group, you could talk about it on the table. If you're sitting on the chairs at the back, just to talk to your neighbours. What are you doing, and how could you go greener? I think there's a slide that we can show at this stage as well, just to prompt you with a few ideas. I think Tristan's given us a lot of ideas, but how could we go greener in our homes, in our travel, in things that we buy? Next slide, yeah. Just a few other things to think about. So just reflecting on what you've heard and what you might like to do differently in your own lives. Give you a few minutes to do that.